Hello, everyone, and welcome back to those of you returning. This is Investus, the stimulus. Um, it's been a while since I've posted last. It's been a few months. I have been busy in that time. I've accomplished a lot, and just wanting to share some of that with you. So one of the one of the things I had hinted at was on my last video or blog post was investing in yourself with that stimulus money. I hope you all have either gotten it at this point or in your direct deposit, or I hope it's in the mail soon here because it's been a couple months. You all should have it by now. Excuse me. What I chose to do was invest in myself. The markets have obviously been on a tear lately. We've even hit some all-time highs on certain stocks or certain funds, and I'm sure you're saying, well, you messed up investing in yourself. Had you put that $1,000 in the markets, you'd have done really well, and you would have made 30% on your money. Well, 30% on 1,200 is just some quick math here. We're talking about $320, $330. Of returns, which is nothing to laugh at. But if I could share with you my story here, I'll tell you how I've done significantly better than that without using a single penny of that in stimulus money in the literal sense, without using it, because I do have the privilege of using it in the capacity as a safety net. So they say 7 or 8 out of 10 Americans can't come up with $1,000 of their own money in an emergency, meaning they'd have to borrow it on a credit card or in some other form from a friend should a $1,000 emergency come up. So I and anyone else in that position is very fortunate and very privileged to have that money used in the capacity as a safety net. And so without having spent a penny, what I mean by that is I've made the time to finally read all these financial books that I had laying around the house, and some that I wanted to read at the library, or some online, some PDFs and ebooks that are available. And so I gained a level of financial literacy that I didn't have before. You can clearly understand that if you just simply watch my last video on my biggest mistake of 2019. And although that was my biggest mistake, it wasn't my only mistake. And so becoming financially literate, one of the things I learned that I was doing incorrectly was I was just living paycheck to paycheck. So there was money in my account, cool, I'll go spend it. There's no money in my account, oh man, I'm broke until next paycheck. So what I had learned I was missing in that regard was a budget. And so what I did was I printed 6 months of my credit card statements and my checking account statements, and I went through and I just literally with a highlighter just categorized everything, whether it was on transportation, housing, food, fun, entertainment, etc. And so that is real eye-opening. If you haven't done that, I really suggest that you all do that. And then I do suggest that you do that regularly in the future. And I do intend to do that myself every so often. But if you've never done it, clear an evening out and print all of those statements and go through with a highlighter, and you might be shocked at where your money's going, or how much of it rather is going to certain expenditures. And so going through that, I found a lot of inefficiencies, and I found a lot of places where I was making financial mistakes on. And so I'm sure most people fall in this category. Your biggest expenses, sort of, you've got 3 that take away the bulk of your paycheck, right? You've got your housing expenses, including utilities, your rent, mortgage, etc. Then you've got transportation, so you got your car payment, you got your insurance payment, etc. Then you've got your food expenses, so you've got restaurants, fast food, groceries, things of that nature. And so, going through the statement was helpful. Going through the statements was helpful. I was able to cut, say, the cable bill from the 450 channel package down to the 100 channels that, I usually watch anyhow. Reduce the Wi-Fi speed. Gigabit internet sounded great at the time until you find out that there's almost, or may literally be, 0 devices on the market that can support that. So, why I was paying for gig speed internet when the fastest device I have can download at 180 megabytes a second makes no sense. So things of that nature, and but there's only so much of that you can do. You get rid of the roadside assistance on the insurance. That does add up, and it added up to a nice sum, but I found sort of lull in savings. And so I knew that something fundamentally needed to change. And so I looked at these 3 major expenses, and I wondered how I could change these drastically. Fortunately, I was in a position where my lease was coming up on my apartment. And so I looked for comparables that were significantly less expensive. And I couldn't find anything that was, downtown, had parking, etc., for the price that I had budgeted for. And so all that had to have happened was that I needed to bring the expectations down to what I was willing to pay for, essentially. So I had to get rid of the secured, 4 Seasons parking garage. I had to get rid of wanting granite countertops, the nice bathrooms, etc., the balconies. That all just had to go to meet with what I was willing to budget and pay for. And so I found this place, which is where I'm at right now. This is room 3 of a 4-bedroom duplex. I've been able to, I was fortunate enough to find somewhere that I feel safe to live and have an acceptable level of privacy and parking and all the other little luxuries that I deem necessary for my life, for my living. And so I was able to reduce my living expenses, my housing expenses with utilities to less than 1/3 of what I was paying just 2 months ago. Right off the bat, if we could just take note here, this number that I'm saving is over 3 times that amount that I would have expected on a 30% return of $1,200 if you got that full stimulus amount. So just having not invested it, and so having not invested it or a penny of it, I am still able to have a return, a theoretical return on that $1,200 of over 3x of what I would have got on the markets, even with this bubble territory market that we're in. So next down the line would be transportation. And so here I was able to pick up extra hours at work, sell, things that I didn't need or didn't use that were just staying around the house, just clutter. And I was able to get rid of the auto loan. So now that I'm able to get rid of the auto loan, I'm no longer spending money on interest or principal payments. The insurance as well. Most contracts, most notes don't allow you to have liability coverage on a vehicle or an asset that you owe money on. So now that I have paid off the note on this vehicle, I've been able to downgrade the insurance from comprehensive to liability. That alone is saving me over $60 a month. I've prioritized transportation in the sense of grouping tasks and things, going to get groceries, going to see friends, going to the library. So I'm just sort of planning these trips to make them one trip instead of 4 or 5 separate trips, reducing wear and tear, mileage, gas usage, etc. And that's just simply that with the car. I haven't been able to figure out or devise a plan as of yet to get rid of it entirely or sell it. But for right now, I've been able to drastically reduce my transportation expenses. Next down the line would be food. So it was very clear. Just to put it bluntly, I just needed to stop eating out. So that meant no fast food, no restaurants. That alone brought down my food expenses drastically. So now that I can go into a little tangent here, I guess. I'm drinking a lot more water. I'm not drinking carbonated beverages, sodas. My caffeine habit I've replaced with dry powders that go into the water bottle. You still get the caffeine. It's just not pre-mixed, and it doesn't taste like whatever flavor I preferred at the gas station or the convenience store. Switch to things like crackers and peanut butter, and my go-to for a snack, as opposed to, high cost, low value items like chips, cookies, things of that nature, just sort of sugary products where, you go to pay at the grocery store, they're about done ringing you up, and you pull out your wallet, and then you look back up, and now all of a sudden your total went from $40 to $100, and it's like, how did that happen with 4 or 5 items? Well, soda's ridiculously expensive, caffeine's ridiculously expensive, chips, all of these very high cost, low value items that I could do without add up really the bulk of the spending on my groceries. And so with time, I'm trimming that down. But like I said, the key here was just simply not eating out as often as I was, or ordering in, or things of that nature. And so to summarize here, because I think I've gone a little bit too far along it, I've spoken too long already. Without having invested that stimulus money in the literal sense, so like I said, in the figurative sense, I'm privileged to have it as a safety net, something I'm not used to. It's something new for me. So now I'm in this sort of privileged group where I can cover a $1,000 emergency with cash without borrowing it. So laying this base of financial literacy, going through expenses and creating a budget was my step number 2. And my step number 3 is now beefing up that emergency fund of the $1,000 to 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which at 2 months ago would have been near impossible for me to even fathom having that amount of money. And fortunately, where I'm at today, it doesn't have to be anywhere near that number. The reason being is I've cut my expenses down so much. And so all of that leads me to believe that investing in myself with that stimulus, as opposed to throwing it in the markets or the next hot stock tip, has saved and it returned much more than the market would have returned with that 30% that I could assume I would have got had I dumped it in at the very bottom of the market. Let's say my stimulus check made it in just in time. And so I hope you all still have at least some of that money to hang around as a safety net. If you've had to use it, completely understand. I've been there. Just know that what I've found over these last 2 months is you actually don't need a single penny of it to invest. By investing in yourself, you can do a lot better than just simply throwing it in the markets. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying tuned. Sorry, like I said, I know it was a long one here. I hope some of you found some value in this video, and I hope to talk to you all soon. Thank you.